and you can introduce yourself and start sharing your presentation. Take it away, Julian.
You're muted.
Like this. Ha! So the small Jabra speaker I had was saying I was not muted, but yeah. All right, let's go through this one. I call it Navigating Security and Compliance for Microsoft 365 Copilot. My name is Julian. I work at a company called PointTaken. Mainly work with IAM and security and governance within Microsoft 365 and Azure platform. So it's a huge, huge space. Please follow me on LinkedIn or following my blog is most appreciated. But over to that, let's just dive right into a demo of Microsoft 365 Copilot. So we have the context for what we are going to talk about next. So let's start. I have just did some cheats here in my loops. I will just do some zooming as well. If I just share my Teams client first, like this. All right. So with Microsoft 365 Copilot, we have a Teams app. That's the Copilot. From here, we can do several fun things. You can do like asking how many emails how many emails do I have activated global administrator role have I got in the last 7 days, and just praying that it actually works. Okay, so it found something. So last 7 days, I got 3 emails where I activated global admin role. So fine, it can actually find stuff, but you can also just, if you're wondering what is the global admin role, just tell me more about the global administrator role. It will actually jump out and find some information about that. And as we see here, it finds information about it, and we can also see where it finds the information about the global admin role. So we see here that it's in the reference file. It's in one of my PowerPoints, which calls admin roles, where I have stored the information about this. So we see that it goes just internally and looks in my files to find the information. We can also do summaries of chats. You can ask, write a summary based on all Teams chat messages from Kjetil Ødegaard, which is a colleague of mine. I'm actually not sure what I have talked with him about. It will maybe be, maybe I should not show this, but okay, let's just see what it says. Okay, last Wednesday, had a conversation, yada, discussed some meetings. So cool, actually can do pulling of everything from the Microsoft Graph and looking into chats and stuff. That's a quick brief on what it can do in the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. So if you quickly switch over to PowerPoint, actually, if I just stop sharing again and shares the screen from, so do like that. Oh, it's a new presentation. I will just share that one app. Ooh. Where did it go? There we go. Okay, so you can see the blank presentation that I have now. So what we can do here, we can just say, okay, I want to create a new presentation. So create a 7-slide presentation from file. And I will just choose a file, and I have some information in the file here. And the cool part here is now it will actually pull together information from that file. But as you see very soon here, soonish, it's not that quite fast. It's finding the file, looking through it, drafting a presentation, and here's the outline. It'll show soonish. Yeah, it's not that fast, but it's faster than if I would create a 7 slides presentation myself. The cool part is that it actually reads the sensitivity labels that it has on that file, even though this file is just labeled public, I think. But we will soon get a pop-up here and see that the sensitivity is set on the file based on the reference file. It was quite slow today. Someone should speed up the Azure compute for our copilots. We're on. All right, so we see up here, due to content created, the exception automatically apply the sensitivity label public. So this is since the reference file has that label attached, then it uses that. And it did a fairly good job creating a presentation based on the files, pulled some photos. Actually, those photos are from public web. Yeah, so quite good. Was supposed to be 7 slides, but it's 10 slides, but fair enough. Good stuff. So that's a very quick intro to what you can, small things you can do with a Copilot. You can also use it in Outlook to help you draft emails or do coaching to find specific word and language changes that you should do before you send the email and stuff like that. But let's just jump back to the presentation. So I'll stop sharing again and jump into the correct presentation, if I can find that again. Whoop. We have it here. All right. So that was a quick demo. If you look at the architecture of Microsoft Copilot, it looks like this. So when we did the prompt, we were up here. We did a user prompt that was pre-processing information and pulled it from Microsoft Graph. Took all that into a new prompt and sent that into the LLM and got a response back, and do the post-processing with the compliance and purview, where we saw that the sensitivity label was attached to the new PowerPoint that was created. And yeah, that's the whole process of how a prompt goes through all sorts before it goes into the LLM and back to the user. If you're diving a bit into it, it looks more like this. We have users and devices on top. We also have applications where we have the Copilot add-in installed into. We have the Copilot engine, and we have Microsoft Graph. From Microsoft Graph, we have several services that are connected. One for business, Exchange, Teams, SharePoint, and online. For this, it will always fetch data that you explicitly have access to. So based on that, you only get the stuff that you actually have access to, and then only I'm not showing, for example, HR data that you are not supposed to see. So how can we do the security and compliance a bit? How can we do it a bit smarter in terms of zero trust methodology? We will do it in 7 steps, and we base that on the zero trust principles from Microsoft with the verify explicitly. We always authenticate and authorize based on available data points, and that will do every time, of course. And we also use least privilege access, meaning that we only have access to the data that we actually need access to. And of course, we also assume breach at all time. So with this in mind, what do we have to do to actually protect ourselves with eyes from a Copilot point of view? For that we have 7 steps. Oh, a little glitch in my presentation. It's supposed to be only show 1. So we have data protection. We have identity and access policies. We have app protection policies, device management, threat protection services, secure collaboration, and user permissions to data. If we have control over these 7 steps, we are in a very good shape within the zero trust architecture, and also within how data are accessed and everything. And if you put that aside, this of course applies if you're not using Copilot as well. So this is something we should have thought about years ago, but being pushed now with the Copilot being pushed out to users. So if you jump into step 1 then, are there any no questions on the way, Martin? Everything's good?
No questions in the chat at least.
No questions? Good. Then we'll toot along with the 7 steps process. All right, step 1 is to deploy and validate your data protection. With data protection, we think of sensitivity labels, and this can be actually a huge project if you're going to implement the sensitivity labels for your company. But having thought of it and actually categorizing your data is quite smart. So this is 1 step to actually do it. Use sensitivity labels for encryption of files, data. It can be deployed manually by users or automatically. This will look a bit like this if you're using in Outlook. You can have sensitivity, public, internal, confidential, strictly confidential. And based on that also, you can have encryption on files based on what you choose here. So that's step 1, sensitivity labels. Step 2, having good identity and access policies is always good. Use MFA, risk sign-ins, PIM access reviews, and so on. Required to use strong authentication for all users. Maybe jumping over to password less if you can, of course. Evaluate all attempts for risk, and also perform access reviews for privileged accounts. Of course, FIDO, security keys, pass keys when that comes, helps in the way of securing accounts. Step 3, deploy or validate your app protection policies. Use Intune app protection policies. This will create a barrier between your organizational data and your personal data on the device. And it can also prevent copying sensitive information onto a Copilot prompt. In short, it looks like this. You have your applications on your phone, and the application will split into two partitions. You have a corporate one and a personal data one. So you can have in Outlook for a phone, you can have corporate data in one partition, and you can also have personal data, but you cannot copy, or you can choose that you cannot copy data between those 2 partitions. So this will protect only your data within your apps on your, like say, bring your own device strategy. If you take that a bit further, you have step 4, which is device management, also fully device management. Enroll all devices in Intune, doing compliance checks and pushing configuration and features, of course. And from there, we can monitor the risk level of all our devices. That looks more like this. Then we still have the app protection policies that protects the data, but we also have protection in the entire device. So we do a full encryption of the data. This, of course, means that the phone or device probably is company owned. And when you leave the company can do a full wipe and all the data is lost on the device, of course. But yeah. So that's the step 4. You're having device management as well. Step 5, validate your threat protection services. Use Defender for Endpoint. Use Windows Hello for Business. Activate controls for smart screen app controls. Use BitLocker on all devices. You have all these features down in E3 or Business Premium as well licenses. So, but of course you have more advanced features in the E5 SKU and the P2 SKU. But having a threat protection service that you actually can monitor is quite nice within the organization. So even if you just have 5 devices or 10 devices, it's good. So, step 6, validate secure collaboration for teams. So this means that you deploy a 3-layer protection based of what data is stored in the team. So you do let's call it labeling of the teams. You can identify sensitive protection and put labels strictly on it. From there, you can have secure access on the teams that says, this team that includes sensitive data can only be accessed within internal users. It look more like, I think I have a slide on this here. Anyway, so now a baseline tier where you can have a public or private team. Everything is allowed, guest sharing. You can access it for unmanaged devices. But if you are highly sensitive to your team, you can only have it as a private team. Unmanaged devices are blocked. You cannot access the team if you are from an unmanaged device. File sharing is limited. You can block sharing. You can do all sorts of configuration on it. And as you also see in the sensitive tier, you can do a web-only access. So it says that you cannot sync any files from the team down to any device. It's web-only. So that's a good strategy for having the secure collaboration with teams. So you're sure of that the information stored in a private team is not shared with any guests.
Question, Julian.
Yeah.
Isn't the on file sharing shouldn't be highly sensitive, be blocked, and sensitive limited to people in the team?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Should be switched around.
Yes.
Good catch, Bastian.
I don't hear that often, but thank you.
Good catch. So yeah, step 6. And step 7, deploy or validate minimum user permissions. You can use at file level, use Microsoft Purview to classify content and have data loss protection policies. On Microsoft Teams and SharePoints, you can audit access to shared content to sites and force restrictions that limits information discovery. And you can also use Microsoft Syntax, which is an advanced management system that helps you on showing you reports on potential oversharing in SharePoint and Teams. So it's a quite nice reports that can be used there. So yeah, those are the 7 steps. If there are any questions? Not that much of a demo of all the steps in this short lunch session, but for sure it can be a huge session if you're going to dive into all 7 steps. Are there any questions from the audience?
If somebody want to ask a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Also, I added a quick poll to just this is anonymous, but if you want to place a poll on what kind of controls you have in place in your organization from the steps Julian presented here.
There's one question. I don't know if Hans Christian, if you want to ask yourself on and unmute or.
Sure. So looking into the Microsoft syntax, are there any kind of special license requirements that we need the E5 for that, or?
It's not included in E5, so that's what's called the SharePoint Premium license now. So everything's a premium. Of course, yeah. So it actually, you need to have a Azure subscription, and also you need to have the SharePoint Premium license as well to gain access to it. So it has Microsoft Syntax is not only for the reports part of it, but it also contains the new service, Microsoft 365 Backup, Restore. We will have the archiving service as well. Yeah, lots in there.
Thanks. And for labeling of teams, what kind of system are you using there? Is it within the Teams admin console, or are we over on Purview or something?
That's in Purview. So it's basically a sensitivity label added that only applies on Teams or Microsoft 365 groups. So you create own labels for Teams and the groups.
Awesome.
We also see a question from Osman regarding sensitivity labels. If doing it manually is not an option, Osman, then you're over to E5 licensing and creating content types that your auto labeling can act on, actually. So it's quite a big old project to get that through. Yeah. See that you got some answers in the poll as well, Jan Vidar?
Yeah.
Looks like
it seems most have identity access and device management in place. Also, threat protection seems good.
Yeah.
So a little bit more or less on the sensitivity and protection part. So protecting the data is hard, right? Because I guess most organizations have come to a good place now have a good control of their identities and access management scenarios, authentication strengths, MFA and all that stuff. They have good control of the devices and threats in the organization. But when it comes to protecting data, like app protection policies and sensitivity labels, that's hard to get to a good level. I guess many organizations have challenges there. So I'm not surprised about these numbers. Although it's only 10 answers. But
is there a way to script it? I was thinking on Osmund's question. Because to ramp up to E5 license right away is, yeah, So if I have a SharePoint site or a bunch of files, couldn't I just create a PowerShell script that, hey, give it this label or something? Or
Yeah, if you can do it's called container labeling. So you can put a sensitivity label on your document library within Teams or SharePoint. But then all the files within that library will get the same label. So then you need to know what kind of data actually is in that folder and move around to if it's not supposed to be encrypted or so.
yeah, so and that will like force it. So if I have a file and change it afterwards, does it change back to like highly confidential or something like that? Or is it just
the strongest policy will win. So if you're starting with a internal labeling for everything, just by doing it on the file on the folder file or the folder place, then when you eventually put in a auto label that should find highly sensitive stuff, it will actually be highly sensitive, even though it's in the same folder as all the other ones. So the strongest one wins always.
Yeah. Cool. So no, I don't have any experience, but I was thinking just having my bunch of files, giving it all like confidential, that it's so it don't get shared by Autopilot, and then pick out the ones I kind of want to be public or yeah.
Even though you put confidential on everything, it will still be indexed by Copilot.
Okay.
It's no automatic in that it will not be indexed. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
But Julian, what would you do if you want to do it manually? Let's say you get all SharePoint documents and set them as internal. Would you do it that way and then go to the files and folders you know that are sensitive and label them as sensitive as such? So the default is at the lowest sensitivity label?
Yeah. I would have done that. But then you also need to yeah, Hans Christian, that would be awesome if you could just ask to just fix it for me, fix everything for me. But yeah, just bear in mind when you're dealing with sensitivity labels. If you start doing stuff like encryption and you fuck it up, then you lose access to the files. So encryption, measure twice, cut once is smart when you're dealing with the encryption part of the labeling. But of course, just the labeling part, there's no harm in doing that. But finding the right labels that you need for your organization is the key point here. Not all organizations need like 5 labels. Maybe it's enough with just 3 or maybe 2, open or private. Yeah. So
we have one raised his hand. Terje, you can unmute if you.
Yeah, just one question. I was attending at the Ignite at Plaza yesterday, and they mentioned the Content Explorer to map all to get the mappings of I don't know what kind of documents and everything you have.
Yeah,
you use that. Is that a recommended way?
I haven't actually used it myself, but for sure you can use Content Explorer for looking into files and matching them to the sensitivity content that you have raised about. Yeah, but I haven't tried it myself.
Okay. Do you know if you can use it as well on the file shares, or is it only for SharePoint?
The labeling or the
Content Explorer? Yeah.
The Content Explorer, I'm not sure of, but I think it's only online. It's not there's no connector on that for file servers. We have connectors for sensitivity labels, so you can label things on file servers, but not doing the content stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Nice. Good questions. Any more?
And if there are any questions, just send them afterwards within the chat or to me in a LinkedIn message or in email or so. Or to any Jan Vidar or Martin as well.
Yeah.
If there are any questions, we'll get the routed the right way.
Well, with that, I guess we could wrap up and say thank you to Julian for your insights into Copilot and some important steps for sure. And as you mentioned, each of those steps could be probably a separate session. So
yeah.
So that was a good, very good high-level overview of what we need to think about in different aspects. Thank you everyone for coming. We will end the meeting now, and as Julian said, the chat will stay alive, so you can still put in your questions after. And we will upload the recording, and Julian, you will share the presentation with me, for example, or you do your own Git pull or pull request. You can choose, and we'll have it on our GitHub repository soon enough. Well, hope to see you again all at another virtual or in-person meetup or at one of our global Azure events. Take note of that if you are in or around Oslo, Bergen, or Kristiansand on the days of 18 April, we will have an in-person meetup regarding the global Azure days. So stay tuned for that as well. Well, I guess it's a thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, very nice, Bastian. Love that. Good ending note. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.